I'm in central Bedfordshire, which is quite often, and if I'm giving a talk or if I'm at one of the groups and I'm just sitting and chatting with people, the conversation always comes round to, so Tibbs Dementia Foundation, what does Tibbs mean? And then I spend the next 10 minutes trying to explain and talking about you and, well, we're named after Margaret Ann Tibbs. And so here you are, here is Margaret Ann Tibbs. So tell us, why did we name it?
Tell us why.
Yes.
I did ask myself that many times. The thing is, I was with Sarah and also later Jenny. We founded this organisation 12 years ago. Almost immediately we had to choose a name because we couldn't have a bank account without a name. So it was really, really urgent that we choose a name. And my name was suggested because I'd had this 30 years at the time working in the field as a social worker and a trainer and an author. And I knew a lot of the very important people working in the field. They were friends. And they suggested my name, and I did not like it. I was not happy. So, Sarah, over to you then. What happened next?
Well, we spent weeks, didn't we, thinking of other names.
We wasted time.
And none of them resonated. And in the end, we just came back to Tibbs Dementia. Yeah. So, and that's stuck. And these 12 years on, you know, it really does seem like it's absolutely the right name for the charity, because it really resonates with all of your values and your history, the work that you did with Tom Kitwood about that person-centeredness. That's at the heart of everything that we do. And that came so strongly from you and, you know, the values and your work with him. So
I had the great good fortune when I left social services. I was actually made redundant. I met Tom almost immediately afterwards at a conference, and he asked me to write a book, but also to join his research project that he was doing into care homes. And I just had 1 year. It was the last year of his life working with him. He was a phenomenal character. He didn't invent the person-centered approach. That was invented by Carl Rogers, the psychologist, as the foundational principle of psychotherapy. But he adapted it for people with dementia. And the essence of the person-centered approach is that you see the person first and not the disease. And up to that time, I think the field was so medically dominated. This was the first time, I think, in this country certainly, and I suspect probably anywhere, that we'd had this alternative narrative. He himself was a social psychologist, and his teaching was all about that, you know, was from that basis. And you see, right from the very beginning, we realised that we all shared the opinion that people with dementia are of equal value. Each one is different. They're just as valuable as are their carers. And that the person-centered approach that puts them at the heart of it needs to be applied to their carers as well as to them. And I think that's one of our founding ideas, isn't it, really? It's at the heart of everything.
It's at the heart of the whole community, isn't it?
And around that, this community has evolved. At the beginning, we didn't know where we were going or what we were doing, really, but it grew.
Yes, it's always grown organically, hasn't it?
Yes, it's always grown organically.
And it's come from the person, either the family carer or the person with dementia. They've come to us and said, well, we like doing this activity, but could we also do this or could we do that? And we've listened to that and we've been guided.
We have.
And just thinking recently about the Clear Voices group.
Yes.
You know, 11 years ago when we started that was really innovative,
it
wasn't
was very innovative, yes.
Clear Voices is a group for people with dementia, for their voice to be heard.
Yes.
So there's no family carers, the person with dementia. And when we started, we thought, well, is this actually going to work? The person's voice had never been really heard before. Yeah. And that first meeting, when we sat down with 5 or 6 people, and we came out and we were
blown away, weren't we?
We learnt so much.
We learnt so much. By listening to the carers, particularly, and the people with dementia, we realised that people actually don't want groups for 6 weeks and then that's it, that's your lot. We were advised by everybody, the high-ups in social services, Alzheimer's Society, everybody, carers in Bedfordshire, they all said, you can only do this with time-limited groups. We realised that that was not actually incredibly helpful. And ever since, I was looking it up, I think ever since 2014, our groups, people have joined a group and they stay in the group for as long as it suits their needs. And as the brain changes and their needs change, we have another group to offer them. And that's a model which has really, really worked.
It really has. And that gives more of a sense of community. I think, there's a danger in some charities, some services, that it's a service we deliver to you.
Yes.
You come to this for a period of time. Whereas I think at Tibbs, we look at the skills, the experiences, the assets, if you like, that the person with dementia, the family carer, the volunteer, the staff team can all bring into the mix.
Yes.
And everybody has that sort of equal value.
Yes.
And we're all in it together.
Yes.
So rather than us saying we're delivering this service to you, it's like we're all working together and doing it together.
And as time has gone by, we've learned to call that, we didn't know, but we've realised that is what they call co-production.
Absolutely.
We ask people what they want and then we try to provide what they want. And many of our groups have arisen directly from suggestions from the people in them, haven't they?
Yeah. And that goes back to that person-centred approach.
Yes,
that
exactly.
Kitwood flower, where love is at the heart, and then there's occupation, identity, all of those things come out of that group because everyone's identifying, everyone's got a sense of purpose, a sense of occupation, a sense of belonging in the group, which makes it sort of coherent.
Yes, and that again is something, now this is old stuff, but we've rediscovered it. And of course what Tom was doing, he did all his work in institutions, care homes and nursing homes. We are applying those principles in the community. And I think in that sense we're kind of pioneering. And we have developed something which is very special and very unusual, and I'm not sure who else is doing it.
Yes, just that breadth, just that sense of community, that you're here for as long as you like. Everyone's got a part to play. And I know one of our worries was how can we extend that into central Bedfordshire? And I think we have. And I hope that sense of community and belonging to Tibbs is felt as much in sort of Dunstable, Leighton Buzzard as it is right in the heart of Bedford.
We actually used a community development. It was community development work, wasn't it?
Yes,
really? It wasn't the strict social care model at all.
No,
we've used other ways.
And really keen to work with community groups. So it could be we do a talk in a church hall, and then a couple of people from the church come and say, "Oh, you could use our church hall," and we've got a couple of volunteers, and then that is the beginning of a new group, which so it's working with our community, the Tibbs community, but working within the wider community. Or did we have a poster once from the inside out?
From the inside out, yes, it was ever expanding circles.
That's right.
We did a poster session at a conference with that, didn't we?
With the poster made by Bedford Modern students.
Which is another thing that is one of our principles, is working across the generations. We've had a wonderful ongoing relationship with Bedford Modern sixth formers for years now. we have had a succession of students of different disciplines coming to spend time with us and learn, and joint work through the music with Fusion, which is a young people's community singing group, and of course we also have all this very important work which our well-being worker is doing with the black and minority ethnic groups, entering into their world rather than running a group and saying come, we go to where they are.
Yes, and I really like her way of working, in that she's not delivering this is what dementia is, I'm coming in to do a dementia talk. She's gently going in and saying, oh, I could do a talk on stress, or I could do a talk on exercise, and then going in and gradually building up that trust and confidence, and understanding, and then introducing a message of, you know, what's good for the heart is good for the head, and sort of building up a sort of, and a lot of it is to do with trust, and for her to understand the needs of the group as much as for them to understand.
Yes, exactly. It's a two-way process. Very much. I do think that's probably the way forward. We've got a long way to go, but I think we're on the right track. And then also these new rural groups, groups in villages, which have just, we've only developed that in the last year, but that seems to be taking off very successfully.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, as resources, you know, financial resources and personal resources, you know, are sort of finite. We need to look at new ways to engage with other communities, using the strengths within those communities. You know, the last thing we want to do is helicopter in and say, we know how to do it. We want to go in and say, well, we managed to do it, and we can help you.
This is what we
show
did,
you the way, but you do your own thing. But these are the values that we adhere to, and you know, it's worked for us.
And another thing which I think is probably very unusual is that we stay with people. I hate this word journey because everybody uses it, don't they? They use it in I'm a celebrity and all these things. But throughout the dementia journey, we don't insist on a diagnosis before people come.
No.
Because we know that that period while you're getting the diagnosis can be intensely stressful for all concerned. But once you're with us, you choose when to leave. And we have groups for people whose relative has gone into a care home, and a group for people when the person has passed away. So in fact, we're by your side, you know, and it can be years. I mean, this is one of the amazing things I've learned in my career. I was thinking about this the other day. It's only through knowing people over years that I can understand about the changes and the adaptations and how difficult it can be when a person changes suddenly from one, you know, where their brain change means that they can no longer do what they used to do. And I think that's invaluable knowledge.
Yes.
And we have people who we've known now for 9 years, don't we?
Absolutely, yes, from day one.
From day one, there's still people around who were there from day one. And I think that's a very rich source of knowledge.
Yes, I think it is. And I think, you know, we are rare, you know, the GP, the specialist sees people for that snapshot of time. We see people day in, day out for a long period.
Yes, we do. And we're built on volunteers. And because a lot of them have been carers, they are what we call experts from experience.
Absolutely.
And they are an invaluable source of knowledge, having seen it from both sides. And they're amazingly useful. And
knowledge
valuable.
And that empathy, just knowing.
Just knowing how to do it.
Not
having to be taught. Having said that, though, I think one of the things we've discovered is that one of the best ways to support people is by teaching them, giving them the information about the changing brain and how it affects the person's behaviour. and then discussing how that might be managed and how we might change our own behaviour to help.
Yes.
And this is an ongoing process.
I think that knowledge is key, and you know, you come with a wealth of knowledge and training skills, but over the years, you know, a lot of your training incorporates the learning from
within the
community.
Yes.
You know, we're forever sort of saying, you know, sharing,
Yeah.
you know, for an observation from, you know, one of our groups,
Yes.
which just really sort
Yeah.
of flavours and just helps us all, I think, to understand.
Yes, yes, I agree.
Yeah. And I think the Clear Voices group, you know, where we encourage people with dementia to speak about their experience, that's proved invaluable over the years.
Absolutely.
And we've both, I know, learned such a lot from that group, you know, just in those first sessions all those 11 years ago, people were saying, you know, it's not the memory loss that frustrates us. It's when people speak over us, when our voice isn't heard, when people finish our sentences. Those are the frustrations.
And the loss of communication skills. Yeah, we've learned so much from other people, haven't we? I mean,
we really have.
I think where we started, we didn't really know an awful lot.
No. But then we went to the Scottish Dementia
Working Group. Yeah. And they were one of the pioneers in this country, in fact, the pioneer group, I think, in this country, of people with dementia talking, you know, talking about what it was like. They made a DVD. Do you remember?
That's right, I do.
Went to a conference. I bought the DVD and I used to use it always after that in my training. Because before that, I've been reflecting on that just recently as I've been sorting out a lot of my old paperwork. We always used to show a video done by actors.
Oh, yes.
You know, of what it is like to have dementia. We don't have to do that anymore because we have people who tell us.
Speak, yes.
Because over the years, people are diagnosed much earlier, and so they're able to. And so that's a big change, actually.
It is a big change. That voice is now really being heard.
Now well established.
And we're now understanding a lot better.
Yeah.
So as well as all the information share, which I think is key, that we offer people information throughout that dementia journey, as we're calling it. So at the beginning of the diagnosis, pre-diagnosis, you know, we all need to raise awareness. During diagnosis, and then at stages throughout those crisis points, perhaps, to stop them becoming crisis points. But then for a lot of the time, people like the social elements. Having somewhere that they can go, you know, on a Tuesday afternoon, see their friends, have a cup of coffee, have a piece of cake, do a quiz, have a chat, or go and play bowls, walking football, whatever it might be. And I think, you know, but what's special about coming into those groups is the welcome that people receive. You know, the volunteers are so good at that. The staff are brilliant at making sure everybody feels welcomed. We kind of understand some of the challenges day to day that people might be facing. But also the fact that it's a very relaxed, non-threatening environment, you know, a non-anxious space. And that kind of reminded me of, you know, the work that you often talk about through Stephen Sabat.
That's right, the non-anxious presence. And we both, don't we, feel that this is so important. And I think this is something like the last thing a person who's battling to manage the day-to-day hurdles, if you have dementia, the last thing they need is to be surrounded by people who are highly stressed. And in our groups, we've tried very, very hard to provide a non-anxious, non-judgmental atmosphere in which they can feel totally safe. And I think it sounds simple, but it's not always that easy to do. But I think we do it pretty well.
I think we do. You know, music for memory, for example, you could sort of say, well, that's just a lot of singing and dancing and some sort of chaos. But it's kind of contained chaos,
yes.
playfulness.
Yes.
But there are strong sort of boundaries around that.
Yes.
And I think in all of the groups, everything that we do, we want there to be that flexibility. We want there to be that sort of soft boundaries, if you like, that we know we can push a little bit. But we know that we can do that because the structure and the foundation is really strong.
Yes.
So we all understand what the policies are. We all understand, what good care looks like, what good services look like. And so within that, because we've got that framework there, people do feel safe.
Yes.
And people feel that actually they are held. We do know what we're doing, even though we do it in a soft touch way.
Yeah. And people feel that it's a family, and they talk about and they say, we don't do that in Tibbs, do they? Which gives me tremendous encouragement, because I feel that we have got our key messages across to people. And, there are certain Tibbs ways of doing things.
And I think hopefully that you can walk into any group in Bedfordshire, and although they're all very different and unique, that there's something that when you walk in and you just get a sense and think, this is a Tibbs group.
Yes.
And I think that's based on that person's centeredness.
Yes.
Every person matters. Every person's valued.
Yes.
It's a safe environment. It's welcoming, and there is flexibility.
Yes.
So that's.
Yes, and I also I feel we should stress that this applies to the person with dementia, but also to the carer, because realistically, the only way to help the person living with dementia is to help those looking after them. And we value them and try to have empathy for them. And we acknowledge the fact, as you said earlier, people want some time to socialise together and have a happy time and going on an outing or a party of some kind, but they also need time separately. And so we have separate groups for, Clear Voices for people with dementia, but we have the Encompass groups for carers, and Zoom groups and face-to-face groups, and we try to meet those dual needs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't we?
Yeah. And that's where that flexibility comes in, and us listening that, if people are saying, actually, there's a need for this, then we'll listen to that and think, well, yes, if people are saying there is a need, then there must be. So that's where the adaptability comes in. And that sort of fact that it's grassroots, when you go back to, 12 years ago when we started talking, we were very much sort of talking to people we knew who were living through dementia, other volunteers that we knew, and everything that we did sort of came out of that. We're kind of all in this together. And although I'm the CEO, because somebody has to be that figurehead, and and yourself, we are very much still hopefully listening and taking on board everything that anybody says. So.
I think we try to be as sort of flat structure as possible, and it's not hierarchical. And though you are the CEO, you're very much part of the community. You're not up there in some office. You're actually out there doing line dancing or whatever it is.
Yes.
With everybody, which sadly I'm not, but you are.
But that's the only way to really meet people and find out what people need. Yeah. And you're still very much part of the community, on Zoom and whenever you're out and about.
Well done, I can do it, yes. Yeah.